Video game music. You know it's great, I know it's great, and if I play... you'd probably be able to tell me what game that was from. But what about the lesser known soundtracks? What about everyone's favorite 90s educational computer game Sonic Schoolhouse? As video game music continues to become more recognized and appreciated, the cream of the crop soundtracks are praised even further. You've got your Personas, your Final Fantasies, your Marios, everyone's heard them. They're amazing, but they'll always receive their time in the spotlight. For every soundtrack that receives its due recognition, 100 others remain in the shadows. And while the very idea I'm about to present sounds worse than a war crime, it is a true fact that not everyone has heard the beach theme from Plock. Just saying I love video game music would be an understatement. I've documented some picks for my all-time favorite soundtracks and decade-defining music from the 2010s, and my only superpower seems to be humming a game melody and finding the song name in less than a minute. However, most of the videos I make don't focus entirely on the music, and instead just mention it in a review or analyze its connection to gameplay. But this time around, we're talking about just the music. The game doesn't even have to be good! When determining the soundtracks for this video, I didn't select them just to surprise people by making sure they were obscure games no one has ever played. Basically, if I feel like I haven't heard enough players talk about the music specifically, or if it has interesting aspects that people may not know about, that counts. And finally, since I haven't played every video game in existence, you might not see your favorites here. I wish I had that much time, but since I don't, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you enjoy this video, consider subscribing. I'm running out of jokes to make about these percentages, but it really does help out the channel. Without further ado, let's get started. Settle down in your chair, bed, or on the toilet. I guess it doesn't really matter where you're watching this. Grab a warm blanket. Sorry, toilet watchers. And allow me to whisk you away to what felt like a simpler time, 2006. The overwhelming colors, the world-tilting gameplay, the comforting acoustic guitar, the strange gibberish lyrics sung by children. This could only be LocoRoco. The story of LocoRoco's soundtrack goes something like this. Tsutomu Kono, the game's creator, invented a fake language so the music could appeal to all audiences. Then he sent these wacky words and ideas off to the composers with a playlist of his favorite soul, R&B, and reggae songs and went, yeah, just make some music, I guess. And just like that, jams were born. While there are only a handful of level types in LocoRoco, subtle music variations are paired with the vastly different voices of the various characters as you switch between them in each world. I don't like this one. These voicings reflect the personality of each LocoRoco and are further amplified in the character themes, ranging from the simple, playful rock of Yellow's theme to the surprisingly beautiful bossa nova of Pink's theme, which is easily my favorite song on the soundtrack. The fake French is very reminiscent of the fake language in Nier Automata, but with less robot depression and a lot more sitting in a cafe drinking a coffee with some nice background music. And if you want even more variety than is already provided on the first two soundtracks, look no further than the lesser-known download-only semi-spin-off LocoRoco Midnight Carnival, a game where the composers said, okay, what if we take LocoRoco, but then we do jazz to it. While LocoRoco Midnight Carnival's soundtrack isn't nearly as expansive as its mainline counterparts, the game's shift towards more action-packed and challenging levels is reflected in its mischievous jazzy tunes, with many of them being remixes from the previous games. There's also a little bit of a dynamic build in the gameplay, which is always a nice touch. As you increase your bounce combo in each level, the music will introduce additional instruments and a little choir of singing buibui in the corner of the screen to build excitement, both of which will disappear upon breaking the combo. But I do have one problem with LocoRoco's music. Can you put on the credits theme? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the car, so come on, let's ride. Now, as soon as you realize that the next game I've chosen is Sonic CD, you may be asking, wait, did I read the video title right? How is Sonic underrated in the slightest? His games have great music. We don't talk about the gameplay sometimes, but his games have great music. And yes, Sonic CD is no different with its vast array of interesting tracks that pushed past the original limits of the Genesis with its CD-ROM add-on. However, have you heard the song Stardust Speedway? I think this is the wrong track. Hang on a second. Yeah, sorry about that. As I was saying, Stardust Speedway. Ah, yes, a classic. I'd like to apologize again. The first song I played was actually... yeah, Stardust Speedway from... wait. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Sonic CD has 2 completely different soundtracks. Oh, you foolish Americans only know Sonic Boom? How about... The story behind this weird piece of history is pretty interesting. The original soundtrack, which was released on the Japanese and European versions of Sonic CD, took inspiration from house and techno music while maintaining that classic Sonic feel. However, Sega of America wanted the soundtrack to be more musically rich and complex, whatever the fuck that means, so the game was delayed for 2 months and an entirely new soundtrack was composed. The result was a soundtrack that, while often feeling foreign when compared to other classic Sonic games, has a vibe all its own that many fans have come to love just as much as the original Japanese music. Both soundtracks utilized the new hardware to make much more complex sounds than were possible with the limitations of the Genesis, including full vocal samples and more realistic instruments. I grew up with the 3D Sonic games in the Dreamcast and GameCube era, so games like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 immediately came to mind when listening to the more complex atmospheric tracks of the American Sonic CD release. The rock guitar riffs of Quartz Quadrant are reminiscent of Sonic and Shadow levels, and slower-paced songs like Tidal Tempest elicit vibes similar to those in the Knuckles and Rouge Emerald hunts. Did she just sing the lick? The soundtracks are so different that it's tough to compare them at all, and basically just gives us the best of both worlds. 2 unique and diverse soundtracks for a Sonic game. The Japanese Robotnik theme is like... Alright, now switch it to the US boss theme. Among my few accomplishments, I like to believe that one of them is having one of the most comprehensive, and you know what? Fuck it. I'll just say it. I have the best Ring Fit Adventure review on all of YouTube. I stuck with that game for months instead of just doing first impressions. An in-depth RPG that can get me to actively legitimately exercise for a few months transcends perfection in most regards, and the soundtrack is no different, because the game would have been powerless without it. I would not have been able to get as far as I have in Ring Fit Adventure if it weren't for the music. Yes, I said as far as I have. Let's not talk about how I still haven't finished it. I got to the final world and it was just, it's all boss battles. Music is an integral part of working out for many people. While there are some strange life forms that genuinely enjoy getting out there in the great wide world and just going for a run without headphones, the rest of humanity begrudgingly deals with their weak mortal coils with trips to the gym, and man, it would be completely draining if not for music. Whether or not a song will work well in a power workout playlist is practically an extra condition for musicians to hit nowadays, and Ring Fit's use of pumped up dynamic music helps you stay motivated through its lengthy fitness journey. 2 of the game's composers, Shiho Fuji and Asuka Hayazaki, were also responsible for much of the music in the Splatoon series, and the influence can easily be heard in the strange gibberish vocals that fill many of the game's battle tracks. An even closer link for both the peppy instrumentation and strange vocals can be found in Miitopia, which shares another of the game's composers, Shinji Ushiroda. But while the Four Masters theme is an absolute banger on its own, the real magic of Ring Fit's music is in its dynamics, which shows the care put into the variety of each track and the game as a whole. In what feels like just about every song in the game, be it overworld, cutscene, shop, or battle, there are variations based on whatever event is occurring, but for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna focus on the battle music. While in menus deciding which move to use, the main version of each song plays, but each battle track has around 8 different versions. Upon reluctantly deciding that it is time to absolutely destroy your legs with a set of overhead squats, or when prepping for an ab guard when an enemy attacks, certain instruments are removed from or added to the mix, from percussion lines to repetitive guitar chords to bass riffs. This intentional tweaking of the dominant sounds and feeling of the song gives sound effects and Ring's encouraging chants more room to breathe. The biggest shift can be found when selecting a yoga move during battle. To enforce the idea that yoga moves are meant to be conducted as calmly as possible, the percussion is cut entirely to remove excitement or anticipation, and most instruments are removed save for an arpeggio-like synth paired with a calmer form of the vocals. And before a big challenge during a boss fight, music is cut completely until you've assumed the correct pose, where the game hits you with heavy percussion and a chorus of chanting voices.
Lower your hips. Hold in on the ring cup and keep bending your leg.
To top it all off, the shopkeepers have their own melodies when you talk to them that harmonize when they're both on screen. I love this game, and here I was thinking I'd never use the word love about anything fitness related. If anyone tries to diss on the absolute perfection of Ring Fit Adventure, I will personally train myself to the peak of physical fitness before, sending Drago to beat the shit out of you. The Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series has always been a strange one. I've had a blast playing it with friends for a few hours, but it was an absolute slog to record alone. The series consists of very simplistic party games based on various events in the Olympics, with a bit of creative freedom, of course. I'm gonna use it.
How'd you get Chaos Emerald?
I used my Chaos Emerald.
How?
I've played a few titles in the series, and from the looks of it, less and less care is being put into these games over time, making them nearly indistinguishable save for slight graphical and control-based differences. Mario himself was so tired of this series, he didn't even show up to the mobile game. So while the recent installment feels like a soulless husk of whatever this incredibly lofty crossover was supposed to represent, I am being 100% serious with you when I say that Rio 2016's soundtrack is the main reason I decided to make this entire video in the first place. It's easy to see how much dedication went into this soundtrack, as Rio 2016 is absolutely jam-packed with high-quality music that pays homage to plenty of Brazilian styles, while also providing some amazing remixes and clever references in its various jingles. Drown the music out with sound effects and ambient noise, put it in a mediocre Olympic crossover video game, I don't care, I'll still find the jams. Rosalina's Observatory Bossa Nova remix? Beautiful. 4x 100-meter relay? I'm grooving at dangerous levels. Rugby sevens? Absolute banger. And hey, remember the super cheesy Sonic Warrior vocal theme from the Japanese and European versions of Sonic CD? There it is. True attention to detail. There is an unhealthy amount of cool stuff to talk about from Rio 2016's soundtrack, from the 10-minute long hub world theme absolutely exploding with life, to the varied use of electronic music alongside cultural instruments that help every track maintain that tropical summer vibe. So to keep this section reasonable, I'm gonna focus on 2 songs and talk about what I think makes them so interesting, as I've literally been using this soundtrack in my videos for like 3 years now. The first song I'd like to talk about, and my favorite on the soundtrack without a doubt, is the equestrian theme. Watching a bunch of Mario and Sonic characters ride regular-looking horses is inherently funny, and the song reflects that mood pretty well, regardless of whether or not it was the composer's intention. Listening to trumpets, a banjo backed with an electric guitar, a saxophone, and a piano toss the melody back and forth to each other really emphasizes the wacky feeling of steering a horse through obstacles. The part of the song that exudes absolute musical genius is the piano solo that happens around 30 seconds in. I cannot get over how funny this bit sounds, but there's a reason behind it. Establishing the piano's chord progression and melody before throwing it off like a kid at a recital who played video games all night instead of practicing is so stupid as a concept, but it works. The pianist's fumbling helps give off the unstable feeling of being on horseback while trying to regain balance and control. Being played on an old rinky-dink saloon piano the second time around makes it even sillier. Big imperfections and intentional mistakes in music don't come around too often and are tricky to pull off, but it makes the song feel alive, like it's being performed by a real band every time you hear it. The second song I'd like to take a look at might just be the crowning achievement of the entire game, Carnaval do Rio. From the moment this track starts, the grandiose instrumentation conjures up mental images of a vibrant parade through the trumpets, speedy drum lines, and vocal chorus. There are plenty of things happening that I'm not musically educated enough to describe, but the icing on the cake is that the song has full vocals, sung entirely in Portuguese. As far as I know, this is the only Mario and Sonic Olympics song to have full vocals, and it shows just how much the game's music team was dedicated to honoring both the importance of the Olympics and the country of Brazil. Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, you may not be that interesting of a game on your own, but I will spread the good word of your soundtrack until I perish from this earth. Well, here we are. While this technically isn't a top 10 video, or top 5 shall we say, I've saved the best for last, so here we go. Just make a video called Underrated Video Games, and both of these titles instantly claim a spot. And I'm only here to talk about the music. Gravity Rush 1 and 2, released for the PS Vita and PS4 respectively, have absolutely phenomenal soundtracks that make them both no-brainers for this list. If Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games was my muse for this video, then Gravity Rush is my brush, my canvas, the whole ass painting. I need to calm myself down so this section can have some form of coherency. Let's start with the first game. Gravity Rush's composer is none other than Kohei Tanaka, who has been working on anime soundtracks since the 80s and is most well known for a little show called One Piece. To accompany the world of Gravity Rush, which takes inspiration from different cultures, languages, and architecture, especially Europe and France, the soundtrack moves between various instruments and genres while keeping the whole thing feeling centered in the game's fictional universe. The game's starting town, Aldnoir, has a beautiful orchestral piece that I won't actually be talking about because one of my current favorite YouTube channels, 8-Bit Music Theory, already made an incredibly in-depth analysis. That video is what originally inspired me to talk about this game's music in the first place, so I'll link it in the description if you're interested. Then what am I gonna talk about? Well, for starters, the Pleasure theme. Here I was, right, just a baby in the world of Gravity Rush with only a few hours of playtime to my name, thinking absolutely nothing could top the beautiful Aldnoir theme, and then I hopped on the train to Pleasure. Oh my god. The immediate switch from the relaxing orchestra of Aldnoir to the lively jazz of the game's nightlife district is a completely welcome slap in the face. If you can get me to stand still in your video game for more than 5 seconds, that's how you know your soundtrack is on another level. There's also more laid back and relaxing tunes for cutscenes and comical moments, like the tune Gravity Days, which is a nice little play on words for the Japanese title of the game. But with 3 times as much content as the original, the real star of the show for me is Gravity Rush 2. I felt like I had to talk about the first game at least a little bit, but most of the material I want to focus on is in the second game, which also includes how it relates back to music in the first. When they started developing this heavily expanded sequel on a major console, I assumed the team's request for music was, okay, we want J-rock for the soundtrack. Wait, no, 1930s, you know, jazz? Yeah, lots of trumpets and saxophone solos. Okay, but like, it's also pretty cinematic and anime, and the gameplay needs a superhero vibe, but then for the town themes, can you do like an island thing with international styles and tribal drums? Maybe some Spanish influence? And as if he didn't do more than enough when composing the first soundtrack, Kohei Tanaka snapped his fingers and said, okay, I did all of those ideas at the same time. In Gravity Rush 2, you start out in an unfamiliar village before eventually reaching the massive, multi-layered city of, forgive my pronunciation, they barely even say it in the game, Jirga Paralau. The layers of the city are reflected with 3 completely different tracks, which is super neat as it helps portray the wealth gap and lifestyle differences between each section. In the middle, we've got an upbeat, somewhat tropical tune to reflect the hustle and bustle of the town's marketplace and trading ports. Take a quick flight up to the rich bourgeoisie neighborhood and you'll find a more calm and whimsical piece. Don't know what this genre is, let's just call it rich people music. The largest contrast is found upon descending to the impoverished houseboat fleet below the city, where an incredibly somber cello and Spanish guitar deliver the melody with only a quiet piano and harp to support them. When I started this game, I did not think it was gonna hit me right out of the gate with class discrimination and a revolution against an oppressive militaristic governing force hell-bent on killing its own citizens to continue mining more precious resources. And then Kat sings in fake French at a smooth jazz concert on the military base. Fuck it, I'm in. After you finish staging a revolution, you get tossed back to the first game's homeworld, Hexaville, where you discover a lot has changed since you disappeared 3 years of weird space-time ago. All 4 of the town themes have been remade to breathe more life into the sequel's huge jump in quality, and the changes in the downtown theme might be my favorite. Take a listen to how the more calming style of the first Gravity Rush evolves into a lively orchestra now fully suited to the bustling European-themed city of Vendicenter. And while Pleasure in the original Gravity Rush was already interesting enough, the sequel turns it into an even more dynamic piece. While the first felt carefully composed, the new version has so much more improvisation that it feels like the song is being played by a live band in the city you're exploring. And the Pleasure Bars theme? This is jazz, right? I feel like this entire video is just me saying it's jazz over and over. I'm sorry, jazz musicians. What else do I call this? Fast tempo, complex chord progressions, improvisation. Is it bebop? And finally, the battle music. Because what's a gravity-defying action RPG without copious amounts of superhero orchestra and cheesy anime tunes? The boppin' J-rock infused with all manner of horn instruments gives off such a powerful vibe. Their tunes perfectly fitted for taking on giant bosses or just absolutely demolishing regular-ass soldiers by throwing them at each other or right off the edges of the town at Mach 20, upon which I assume they plummet forever? It's kind of fucked up. I still haven't finished Gravity Rush 2, and this game keeps hitting me with great music every time I sit down to play. It's incredible, and both games deserve way more recognition than they ever received. Alright, I'm stopping myself from talking any more about Gravity Rush 2. This script is almost at 5,000 words. I have to stop. But obviously not before the bonus round of honorable mentions! In Chibi Robo, the dynamic melodies in the overworld are played by Chibi Robo's footsteps as he walks across different types of flooring, and the music gets faster when you pick up the cable? Looks like we have some 2005 Game of the Year material over here. Elebits is... I don't have time in my short mortal lifespan to get into complex fighting games, nor do I have the time to read out their full titles, such as in the case of Under Night in Birth EXE latest open bracket CL-R closed bracket. But holy shit, it has some jams. Going Under goes hard. It goes so hard. Like, put on Safe to Merge. Oh my god! And finally, Mighty Switch Force. I tried to make this game into its own section, but every time I came back to write any sort of musical terms or genre analysis, all my stupid brain could manage to do was spill out the word groove repeatedly onto the page. It was just music good. Don't even get me started on the credits theme from Mighty Switch Force 2. On that note, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you'd like to support my work, I have a Patreon you can check out at patreon.com/yakkocmn or through the link in the description. I make fully scripted videos exclusive to Patreon every month where I casually review games, give sneak peeks into future projects, and explore my editing in more detail. You can also get your name in the credits at the end of each video, and gain access to exclusive Discord channels where you can ask me questions and chat with other patrons. So if you're interested, consider checking it out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Trust me, I'm not done talking about video game soundtracks just yet. Oh my god, I forgot about Eminem's The Lost Formula.